I've decided to leave. I'm going to leave Kody. Just leave.
The Kody Chronicles starts not in a laughter-filled house, but in quiet silence that only occurs when the truth has been covered up for years, buried beneath layers of smiles, fake family photos, and the constantly rolling cameras of reality television. Kody Brown sits in court, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, directly across from her. Kody Brown maintains his jaw firmly set, arms crossed, eyes flitting back and forth between his lawyers and the judge. Robin is seated directly behind him, grasping a tissue, her face streaming with tears. Janelle, as always, sits stiff, leaning forward slightly, observing Mary. Alone, her expression unreadable. Not quite friend, not quite foe, stuck somewhere in the backwash of her own quiet. The clerk recites the case file out loud, Brown v. Brown. And then the words that will etch themselves into this moment for all time: fraud, breach of trust, emotional distress. But prior to this courtroom, prior to the witnesses and evidence, prior to the word fraud ever being applied to Kody's name, there was Kody, and there was what she believed had been a marriage. Kody's tale starts with hope early on. She was attracted to Kody for his charisma. He was boisterous, assertive, a man who dominated rooms. He talked of religion, family, and legacy with such passion in his eyes that others wanted to believe. Kody was young, impressionable, and was raised in a universe where plural marriage was not just a way of life. It was salvation. When Kody courted her, he painted a picture that seemed unshakable. A big family united under God, where every wife was equal, every child cherished, every voice heard. He promised her she would never be alone, that she was stepping into a sisterhood. On the day of the wedding, Kody believed it all. There were no cameras rolling. No one knew their names. It was Kody, a white gown, shaking hands, and the conviction that she was walking into something holy. But already, there were planted seeds of doubt. In her diaries, subsequently exposed in court through discovery, Kody documented her early nights as wife to Kody, how distracted he appeared, how he quickly lectured but slowly listened, how sisterhood always translated to competition, carefully fanned by Kody's variable attention. Kody spoke of lonely nights in a home that could have been filled with oneness. She shared moments of broken promises and of fantasying about living equally. Equality remained an elusive dream. Told me we'd build homes side by side, one read. But I sat watching while the plans always seemed to change, always in someone else's direction. I kept telling myself my turn would come, but deep down inside I already knew. My turn was never coming. Flash forward years later, the television crews show up. TLC puts the Browns under a spotlight and makes them household names. Kody is no longer simply a wife. She is the perky one, the maternal nurturer, the laughter and sincerity fan favorite. But that was the Kody the world knew. Off camera, Kody was still writing in her journal, still documenting the gradual dissolution of the dream. Because as Kody's star became brighter, Kody's voice grew dimmer. She was instructed to play the part, to smile for the fans, to maintain the story. She was made into an accessory in Kody's show, and Kody enjoyed the show. He portrayed the role of the charming patriarch, peddling the world on his plural marriage vision. But as court documents later showed, this was not about religion. It was about money, contracts, power. The highly publicized, so-called perfect marriage of Kody and Kody formed the basis for the empire. It was Kody who took care of the children when Kody was out following dreams. Kody who bore the emotional burden of maintaining peace in a home constructed on competition. Kody who held the promise long after Kody lost interest. And yet, when Kody most needed Kody's loyalty, he was always elsewhere. With another wife, with another plot, with another tale to spin. The courtroom lights dim as the first bit of evidence is presented. Kody's journals, handwritten pages spanning decades, chronicling the facade of her perfect marriage. Kody's lawyer holds up the heavy binder. The jury closes in. The judge puts on his reading glasses. "Mrs. Brown," the lawyer asks, "do you recognize this?" Kody nods. "Yes, those are my journals from the start." The attorney puts them on the evidence table. Pages and pages of ink, yellowed with age, but still screaming with truth. Kody swallows hard. These journals have been her personal agony for years, and now they're public record. And when the judge approves them as evidence, Kody shifts uncomfortably in his seat. His jaw clenches, his eyes burn holes through Christine, because he knows what is written there. He knows what she is about to reveal. The lawyer opens to a 1995 dated page. Christine's words resonate in the courtroom. He said I was special, that I would always be loved. But tonight, I feel invisible. I don't think he even noticed I was here. Silence in the courtroom. Another note. He promised equality, but I see now. Equality is just a word, not a practice. I am already less than, and I think he likes it that way. The jury squirms uncomfortably. Even the bailiff averts his eyes, because this isn't simply about love. It is about control. Christine takes a deep breath. This is what she has waited years to say. Her marriage to Kody wasn't the fairy tale. It was an act, a finely tuned illusion that worked for him, but kept her quiet. And now, in this courtroom, the illusion is disintegrating. The lawyer closes the journal and sets it down. Mrs. Brown, he whispers gently, when did you first understand your marriage was not real? Christine glances at Kody, then the jury, then at her interlocked fingers. Her lips quiver. She barely speaks above a whisper. The day he said the dream was never mine. The courtroom is silent. The judge clears his throat, and the screen goes black. The words hang heavy in the courtroom. The day he told me the dream was never mine. It is not a statement. It is a confession, a revelation, a knife to the heart of the perfect marriage Kody Brown had so vaunted before the world. Christine sits straighter. Now, the fear that had once held her in its grip has sharpened into something sharper, resolve. Her silence has been weaponized long enough. Not today. The judge nods, indicating the lawyer to proceed. The courtroom waits. Some incline forward, others take down notes. Tension is palpable, like a storm gathering in four walls. The lawyer, Miss Anna Sharma, an old hand at courtroom battles, whose stoic intensity is legendary, holds up a next piece of evidence. This is not a journal, it is a photograph. She lays it on the projector. The jury glances up to see a photo of Christine on her wedding day, beaming, laughing, eyes full of innocent hope. Standing beside her is Kody, smiling, holding her hand. The image of a man who is truly in love. Sharma pauses. Then, with serene deliberation, she asks, Mrs. Brown, if you look at this photograph today, what do you see? Christine doesn't flinch. I see a lie. A man who was already mapping out his next stage before our own even started. Kody jerks violently in his chair. His attorney, Mr. Croft, puts a firm hand on his arm, mouthing something emphatic. But Kody's fury is bubbling too near the surface. Christine goes on. Her voice calms. Right from the start. I thought I was walking into a partnership. I believed him when he told me it was love. It was unity. It was family. But what I didn't realize was that I was walking into a hierarchy. He was always the king, and we were his subjects. The courtroom murmurs. Whispers run through the gallery. Sharma moves deliberately across the courtroom floor, allowing Christine's words to ring out before she speaks again. Say hierarchy. Explain it to the court. Christine nods, takes a deep breath, and starts to unwrap the layers of her so-called marriage. She speaks of the beginning years, when cracks first began to form, how she was excluded from making decisions, how Kody would overrule her for others, how Christine had to smile and agree even as her heart shattered. There was always a favorite, Christine tells them, and the rest of us knew it. He said we were equals, but his behavior indicated otherwise. Some were more equal than others. The jury listens with intent. A woman in the front row furrows her brow, jotting something into her notes. Christine's words cut deeper because they're not accusations, they're experiences, their memories, their scars. Sharma leans forward. Mrs. Brown, did you ever challenge him about this imbalance? Christine's response is a tiny, bitter laugh. Confrontation wasn't permitted. Any time I challenged him, I was accused of being unfaithful, of having too little faith, of destroying the family, and the worst thing. She takes a moment. The courtroom waits. He made me feel that it was my fault every time. The projection shifts once more. This one is from another journal entry, this time, 2001. I told him I felt abandoned. He said I was selfish. I told him I wanted more time. He said I was asking for too much. I asked him if he still loved me. He said love was conditional. The words flash on the screen. The jury fidgets. The air begins to chill. Christine's tone breaks through. Conditional. That was his word. Love was something I had to earn, and if I didn't measure up, I didn't get it. Kody's attorney stands to object. Your Honor, this is prejudicial, taken out of context. But the judge waves him off. The witness is referring to her lived experience, overruled. Christine locks eyes with Kody for the first time that day. His stare is angry, but hers is firm, immovable. Sharma shifts to her next question. Mrs. Brown, would you say your marriage was emotionally supportive? Christine doesn't flinch. It was emotionally suffocating. Her voice breaks, but she continues. Marriage was supposed to be about partnership, but what I learned was that it was about control. I found out very quickly that my silence was the cost of being alive, and that if I dared to speak, I would be punished with distance, with rejection, with words that cut deeper than any knife. The courtroom falls silent once again. Even the distant hum of the air conditioning appears to grow quiet. And then Sharma drops the next bomb, financial records. She holds up a thick binder, opening it to a yellow highlighted page. Mrs. Brown. Do you know about Family Traditions LLC? Christine nods. Yes, that was to be our family's shared financial account. Money from the show, from gigs, from business ventures. It was all to go into it. And did it? Christine's eyes grow dark. Not all of it, not even close. Sharma clicks the projector once more. Bank statements. This time, transfer after transfer. Christine inclines slightly forward, eyes narrowing as the figures flash on the screen. These are transfers, Sharma says. From Family Traditions, LLC, into an entity separate. CN Fair Holdings. The jury sits up. The name is enough to give gravity to. Christine shakes her head grimly. I didn't know about that account for years. I only discovered it when I began asking questions about why there wasn't enough money to construct my house on Coyote Pass. He said the money was gone, that we'd have to wait. But it wasn't gone. It was squirreled away. Her words hit like a hammer. Kody's face turns red. He spits something to his attorney. Robin clutches his hand, talking wildly in a whisper, but he pulls it away, his rage spilling over. Christine does not wince. She does not glance away. Years, she says. I was told we couldn't afford this or that the family was suffering, that sacrifices needed to be made. And I believed him. I trusted him. But now I see. He was ensuring we made sacrifices while he and Robin flourished. The lawyer holds up another journal entry, this one from 2015. Told me we needed to cut back, that the money was tight. But a day later, Robin had a new car. I questioned him as to how it was possible, said she needed it more. Told me to cease asking questions, that my place was to assist, not question. The jury stirs again. The judge raps on the bench for quiet. Christine's voice strengthens, becomes firmer. I thought marriage was about building together. Ours was about him building a kingdom, and I was just one of the bricks. Sharma puts her hands on the evidence table, leaning forward toward Christine. Mrs. Brown, when you discovered the finances were being concealed, what did you do? Christine takes a sharp breath, her eyes flashing with the burden of years of silence. I began making plans to leave. The words rumble like thunder. The courtroom gasps. Kody slams his hand on the table. Robin sobs harder. The judge bangs the gavel for order. Christine sits firm, unwavering. For the first time in years, she is not just getting by. She is speaking. And the world is finally listening. The courtroom settled back into its groove after recess. Yet the mood had shifted. The jury sat forward in their seats. Reporters wrote more rapidly, and even the judge's calm stare bore more weight. Christine Brown took the witness stand again. She didn't look nervous. She looked resolved. Years of silence, of being dismissed, seemed to fall away as she folded her hands, glanced at her daughters in the back row, and looked directly at the jury. This isn't a divorce thing, she said firmly. This is about the rewriting of history, about someone who saw me every day for 25 years, and then chose to act as if all of it never existed. On the defense team's side, Kody squirmed in his seat. He crossed and recrossed his arms, his lips compressing in exasperation. Christine started telling one memory. It was our faith wedding anniversary. I carved a wooden plaque with all of our children's names engraved on it. I cooked his favorite meal. I waited and waited. He never came home. She hesitated, her voice cracking just a little. That night at Feifei, he texted me. Sorry, already celebrated with Robin last week, didn't think we needed to. Gasps filled the room. Kody's jaw clenching, his face red with anger. Robin reached out to him, but he shook her off, staring at the table. Christine's lawyer inquired, Did you try to save this marriage? Yes, we attended counseling. An audio recording was played. Christine's voice was heard first. I don't feel seen. I feel erased. I feel like I'm being edited out of this family. Then Kody's voice rang out, icy and hard. You're not the woman I married. Maybe you never were. When the recording stopped, the silence was suffocating. Even the judge fidgeted. Christine tilted her head up. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just unloved. I was unwanted. A projection illuminated on the courtroom screen, an email sent a year earlier before she'd walked out. I see it too. You're not crazy. He is trying to make you believe you dreamed the good years. But I remember them. They were real. Don't let him do that to you. Christine's eyes welled up with tears. That email saved me. It made me realize I wasn't crazy. I wasn't invisible. She unfolded a piece of paper and held it over her head. This is the letter that I wrote for him 2 days before I left. Her voice trembled as she read aloud. Dear Kody, I tried. I believed in us. But love shouldn't make you feel like a ghost. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. She folded it back meticulously and put it on the table. Then the proof nobody anticipated. A spreadsheet on the courtroom monitor. It indicated over Feifei taken out of the family trust. A month after Christine declared her break from Kody, channeled into accounts in Kody and Robin's names. Christine's tone was stern. I wasn't discarded emotionally. I was erased financially. That is a lie, Kody loudly exclaimed. The judge slammed his gavel. Mr. Brown, another outburst and you'll be in contempt. Christine sat frozen. She didn't even blink. Her lawyer leaned in. Christine, what was the ultimate breaking point? Christine took a deep breath. When truly our daughter looked at me and said, Why doesn't Daddy come around anymore? Her voice broke, and I had no answer, because I was wondering the same thing. The room went silent. The jury stood still, and for the very first time, Kody Brown, the man who never had a speech, never had an excuse, was motionless. Because in that moment, Christine's silence spoke volumes. The following morning, the courthouse hummed with activity before it even opened. Reporters occupied the steps, microphones in hand fixed on the entrance. Within, Christine sat with her attorney studying notes. She appeared calm, composed across the aisle. Kody paced restlessly. His tie half lost, his eyes bleary. Robin held on to him, mouthing soothing words into his ear. But nothing could placate him. The room was called to order by the judge, and the plaintiffs declared the next witness, Janelle Brown. The jury sat up straight. The cameras had been prohibited, but the tension was as palpable as a live signal. Janelle moved to the stand with subdued dignity, dressed in a navy blazer and no makeup. She straightened her glasses, took her oath, and placed her hands neatly in front of her. The lawyer started. Mrs. Brown, how would you characterize Christine and Kody's marriage from your point of view as someone within the family? Janelle took a deep breath. At first, it seemed happy. He laughed at her. They had inside jokes. She was his sunshine. But after a while, I saw something change. It wasn't sudden. It was gradual. Like seeing a light fade until it is out. Kody shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his fists clenching. Janelle went on. Christine gave him everything. Her time, her devotion, her loyalty. And what did he offer her? Conditions. If she questioned him, he shut her down. If she requested more, he accused her of selfishness. Sooner or later, she stopped requesting. She just kept quiet. The lawyer nodded. And did you ever talk to Christine about this? Yes. She told me she felt erased, she said. Janelle, he doesn't even see me anymore. It's like I'm a ghost in my own home. The courtroom murmured. Christine kept her eyes on Janelle, a small nod of gratitude passing between them. Then came the evidence. A binder of financial documents. Janelle had kept copies, tax filings, LLC statements, family budgets that didn't add up. The lawyer threw one page on the screen. Can you tell me about this? Janelle put on her glasses. This indicates the income of the family for entertainment purposes from TLC. It was supposed to be shared among the wives and homes, but notice, by 2018, the deposits were being directly sent to accounts owned by Kody and Robin. The jury looked hard at the numbers. $180,000. Purse how? Only Christine's and Janelle's allowances were itemized by the next year, a mere fraction of the amount. Janelle's voice grew cold. Christine was informed that there wasn't sufficient funds for Isabel's operation. But look at this. The same month, $65,000 flowed into Robin's personal family account. That wasn't poverty, that was a choice. Kody leapt to his feet. That is not true. You don't know anything about how plural families work. The judge brought his gavel down hard. Mr. Brown, sit down. Another interruption, and I will have you removed. Kody dropped back into his chair, gasping. Christine leaned forward, her voice firm. This isn't about plural families. It is about betrayal. The room fell silent. The attorney turned back to Janelle. And what did Christine say when she finally decided to leave? Janelle's eyes glistened. She said, I can't raise my daughters in a home where love is conditional. And then she told me something I'll never forget. Silence is killing me more than anger ever could. The jury was transfixed. As Janelle exited, Christine's attorney dropped one last bombshell for the day. A never-seen TLC interview video clip. The lights went down, the screen came on, and there was Christine, her skin ashen, eyes puffy from sobbing. She spoke softly to the camera. He tells the world he loves us the same, but behind closed doors, I don't think he ever loved me at all. The clip cut off. The room remained in stunned silence. Christine dropped her chin, the burden of her words at last exposed. And in the corner, Kody grumbled to himself, just loud enough for a handful of people to hear. She'll regret this. But it was no longer his to dictate. By the time Part 5 of the trial began, the case had turned from passionate testimony to tough evidence. The courtroom was heavier, almost stifling. Everyone could see what was on its way. Financial analysts, accountants, and insiders waiting to take away whatever was left of Kody's carefully constructed image. The plaintiffs brought on their next witness, a forensic accountant. He was a suave, measured man with decades of experience tracking concealed assets and financial irregularities. His very presence was impressive. This wasn't family soap opera anymore. This was numbers, records, and evidence. He started with a presentation of papers displayed on the big courtroom monitor. Wire transfers, filings for LLCs, tax returns, all the documents Kody had figured no one would ever review beyond his bubble. This. The accountant replied, pointing to a section of the report highlighted in yellow, is a $50,000 transfer from the family account, Family Traditions LLC, into an offshoot account in the name K.N. Fair Holdings. Both accounts were controlled by Mr. Kody Brown. The attorney inquired, did Christine Brown know anything about these transfers? Number from my examination of correspondence and access logs. Mrs. Brown knew nothing about K.N. Fair Holdings. Neither did Mrs. Janelle Brown. All access was limited to Mr. Brown and Mrs. Robin Brown. The jury made notes, their faces tense. Another slide came up. A pie chart between 2021 and 2019. More than $300,000 was deposited into K.N. Fair Holdings. Within the same time frame, Christine was refused medical procedure, household, and relocation funds. Records, in contrast, indicate hefty purchases on Robin Brown's household, such as house furnishings, luxury goods, and private security contracts. A gasp ran around the room. Christine remained still, but her hand lay clenched on the table, knuckles white. Janelle, sitting next to her, shifted back in shock. The accountant went on. If these funds had been left in the family account as originally planned, there would have been enough capital to construct 2 other homes on the Coyote Pass property. Instead, the funds were diverted, leaving the plaintiffs with no money. The judge looked over his glasses at Kody, slumped in his chair, jaw clenched, eyes flashing back and forth between the accountant and his own lawyer. Kody's attorney sprang up. Objection, Your Honor. The witness is guessing the financial motives of the plaintiffs. The judge shook his head. Overruled, the witness is describing documented financial trends. Go on. The accountant turned coolly to the next page. This is a pay stub for Miss Mindy Jessup, the nanny. Her pay was drawn directly from K.N. Fair Holdings. The figure, $80,000 a year. The room erupted with murmurs. The jurors' eyes bulged. One nodded over to another and whispered something that caused them both to shake their heads. Christine's lawyer stood. So in summary, Mr. Brown made his wives claim financial distress, but at the same time paid a household staff a six-figure salary, financed private security, and deposited hundreds of thousands of dollars in a limited account that only Mr. Brown and Robin had access to. The accountant nodded. That is correct. Christine's attorney hesitated for emphasis, then said, in your expert opinion, was this a violation of fiduciary responsibility to the other wives who had legal and financial interests in Family Traditions, LLC? The accountant locked eyes with the jury. Yes. Christine leaned back in her seat, her own eyes welling up. She was not crying, no longer. This was not about loss, it was about validation. Robin wiped at her eyes with a tissue, her shoulders trembling. Kody pulled forward and growled something under his breath, but the microphones picked it up. Don't let them see you cry. The courtroom became tense, the judge raising a hand. Mr. Brown, you will compose yourself. As the day came to an end, Christine's lawyer rose to make one last point before adjournment. For years, the world was told this was a perfect marriage, a perfect family, a perfect dream. But today we've seen the truth. The perfect marriage was built on lies, manipulation, and deception. And now, finally, the truth is on record. The judge banged the gavel, calling the court to recess. The jury shuffled out, whispering amongst themselves. Reporters scrambled for the exits, already drafting headlines. Christine sat quietly, her eyes fixed hard on Kody. For the first time, she wasn't the one taking a step back. And Kody, he didn't appear like a patriarch anymore. He appeared cornered. The day after, the courthouse was packed. Double the number of people waited outside. News trucks took up the street, and show fans waved their own homemade signs. Some for Christine, others screaming justice for Janelle, or Kody tell the truth. Inside, it was charged. Everyone knew the trial was coming down to the wire. Christine sat at the plaintiff's table, serene and composed. Her gaze was firm, her posture upright, as if she had waited all these years for this precise moment. Next to her, Janelle tapped a pen softly, her concentration unwavering. Across from them, Kody slumped, his face set into a scowl of anger. Robin wiped tears from her eyes, talking wildly to him, but his jaw was clenched shut. The attorney for the plaintiffs rose to his feet and spoke to the judge. Your Honor, today we present our most important witness, Miss Mindy Jessup. The atmosphere changed. Whispers coursed through the gallery. Robin's niece, the nanny. The only person who had been in their home nearly every single day for the years in question. Mindy proceeded to the stand, a determination in her stride, but only a soft-spoken word. She had on a simple blazer, her hair pulled into a neat bun. She raised her hand, took the oath, and sat. Christine's lawyer didn't waste any time. Miss Jessup, were you the employee of Kody and Robin Brown from 2019 to 2022? Yes, Mindy answered. I worked for them as their nanny and housekeeper. And who paid for your wages? Confer Holdings. The lawyer nodded. Did you ever hear Kody and Robin discussing the plaintiffs, Christine and Janelle? Mindy's tone was firm. Yes, often they referred to them as the noise. They said Christine was manipulative, that she was trying to guilt Kody into coming for her children. They joked about blowing off her calls. Robin once said to Kody, if you pay attention to Christine, she'll think she has power again. Gasps echoed through the room. Kody's face became crimson. Robin hung her head, sobs streaming down her face. The lawyer leaned forward. Did you ever hear them discuss money? Yes. They referred to it as the nest egg. They said it was for Robin's children, for their future. Kody said, the older children didn't count because they'd be out of the house soon. He said Christine and Janelle's children were dead weight. The courtroom exploded. The judge slammed his gavel angrily. Order, order in this court. Christine's hands shook a little on the table, but she said nothing. Janelle nodded her head, her face white with anger. Mindy continued. They weren't saving for the family. They were saving for themselves. They wanted to live a life just for the two of them, and they didn't care who they hurt. The lawyer spoke quietly. Why now are you coming forward? Mindy's gaze jumped to Christine. Because I saw the hurt. I saw Truly cry herself to bed because her daddy wouldn't come. I saw Christine cooking dinner for one, night after night. And I knew being silent made me part of it. The jury was riveted. The gallery was quiet. Even the press had ceased typing, their eyes fixed on Mindy. Christine's attorney concluded, Ladies and gentlemen, this is not just betrayal. This is systemic deceit. This is a pattern of gaslighting, financial exploitation, and emotional abuse. And today, the truth is finally on the record. The judge called for recess, but no one moved at first. The air was heavy, charged, unshakable. Christine exhaled slowly, her composure intact. Janelle leaned closer, whispering, We've got him. But on the defensive team, Kody grumbled something under his breath. Nasty. His eyes locked on Christine. This isn't over. The words lingered in the air like a promise of retribution. And Christine knew the worst was not yet past. The last day of testimony finally came. The courthouse was hushed as individuals took their seats, the air thick with expectation. It wasn't a trial anymore. It was now a reckoning, the public unveiling of years of secrets, manipulation, and broken hearts. Christine sat stiffly in her chair, pale but not uncomposed, her hands clasped tightly together in front of her. She didn't have to do much talking anymore. The evidence, the witnesses, the betrayal, it had all been laid out, yet she recognized that this day was most important. The judge walked in, his gavel banging on the bench. This court will now hear closing arguments. Christine's lawyer stood first. His tone was steady but resolute, every word calculated and deliberate. Ladies and gentlemen, this case was never about an amicable breakup. It was never about bruised feelings. It was about truth. Christine Brown devoted her heart, her loyalty, and her trust for decades to a man who abused all three. We presented you with evidence of secret accounts. We heard from people within the home. We saw as promises of equality were broken by lies, and most of all, we witnessed Christine's bravery. Bravery to stand and say, Enough? He faced Christine, then the jury. When you render your verdict, keep in mind that this isn't about contracts and bank records. It is about if silence and dishonesty will remain the norm, or if truth will finally prevail. He took his seat, then the defense's turn. Kody's lawyer, his tie pulled loose, his forehead sweating, attempted to save what was left. This is a family affair, masquerading as a trial. My client is a man under tremendous stress, a man whose sole sin was attempting to keep a complicated family together. He did what he believed was in the best interest. There were mistakes, yes, but fraud, deception, abuse. That is not Kody Brown. The faces of the jury spoke otherwise. They had witnessed too much, heard too much. The words were hollow. Christine remained silent, her face impassive. Janelle touched her, gripping her hand. In that brief touch, decades of pain and resilience shared were known. The judge sent the jury out to deliberate. The room breathed a collective sigh all at once. Christine shut her eyes briefly, whispering a soft prayer. The minutes crept by like hours. Then, unexpectedly, the jury came back. They deliberated in less than an hour. The foreman gave the paper to the bailiff, who handed it to the judge. He slowly unfolded it, reading the words with his eyes. Then he glanced up, his voice firm. In the case of Brown v. Brown, we, the jury, find in favor of the plaintiffs. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Christine's shoulders relaxed in relief. Janelle's eyes welling up with tears, the judge went on. On the allegations of breach of fiduciary duty, unjust enrichment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, we hold the defendant, Kody Brown, liable. Christine covered her mouth with her hands, her calm breaking for the first time. Janelle leaned against her, whispering, It is over. But on the other side of the aisle, Kody exploded. He leapt to his feet, his face contorted in anger. This isn't over, he bellowed, his voice ringing in the chamber. Robin was holding on to his arm, crying, as security closed in. The judge slammed the gavel. Order in this court, but Kody continued. He glared straight at Christine, his voice soft but venomous. You think you've won. You don't even know what is coming next, the bailiff intervened. taking him back to his seat, but the words lingered like a thundercloud. Christine did not blink. She looked ahead, her tears now streaming but subdued. For the first time, she was not silenced. For the first time, the world heard her truth. And yet, as the judge issued the verdict, whispers started circulating, sealed testimony rumors. Federal agents, a greater conspiracy to be unraveled. Christine let out a breath, eyes closed. The verdict belonged to her. Justice was done, but in her own mind she knew this wasn't over. It was just the start.